Okay, so today we're going to start where we left off on Bais. It's the end of the last sugya. It says Amar Ameimar Mishmeder Papa. Bais 8b. Ameimar says in the name of Rav Papa, Leilischi finish Kafli Luya Bisra, the Dov Tarba Bala Bisra. Don't place the flanks, these big pieces of meat, on top of other meat, because on top of these flanks there's chaylev. So if you put it down upside down on top of other meat, the chaylev is going to leak out from the top piece of meat and get absorbed. The forbidden fat is going to get absorbed into the bottom piece of meat. The Gemara asks, "Ihachi ki tritze nami dov tarba bala bisra." The Gemara says, 1 second. What is the kafli? It's a piece of meat that has chaylev attached to it. So normally you would put it upward. You would put the piece of meat with the chaylev sticking up, on the top. So the Gemara says, don't put it upside down on top of another piece of meat. But what if you put it up? The chaylev is going to absorb down into its own meat. Right. The Gemara says, no, karma mafsik mitatoi. It has a membrane that interrupts that flow in between the chaylev and the later Gemaras. In between the chaylev and the meat. The later Gemaras are going to explain how to determine which one is chaylev and which one is shuman. So you asked, you have a piece of meat with fat in it. So there's a membrane that surrounds it. Excuse me. It says ihachi. If so, me'layinami. Now I'm on top of 9a. Test Samad Aleph. On the top also, if you take these kafli, these flanks of meat, and you put it upside down on top of other meat, it happens to be there's a membrane on the bottom, there's a membrane on the top. So it says no. The Gemara says, "Aidi de mashma yada de tapcha miftas." The problem is that on the top it was already touched by the butcher, and the membrane is thin. And if the butcher is already handling it, he could have ripped it, penetrated the membrane, and then when you turn it over, the fat could leak out onto the lower one. But on the natural cut of the natural way that the fat membrane meet, over there no one ever touched that membrane when it's in between the fat and the meat, and that we're not concerned about. Okay, now we're up to the new Gemara for today. Good morning. Amar Rab Yermi, Amar Rab Yehuda, Amar Rav. Rab Yehuda is the famous Talmud of Rav. At first, then he went to Shmuel. Rab Yehuda, after Rav passed away. Rab Yehuda says in the name of Rav, Talmud Chacham tzarich sheyilmad gimel dvarim. The Talmud Chacham needs to know 3 things. The term Talmud Chacham was always said. Why is he says a Chacham? He says no, because when it comes to Torah, a person is always learning. Even if he's a Chacham, he's still a Talmud. However, I heard someone else say, I don't know if this is accurate, but I heard someone call another person, he says, he's a Talmid Chachamim. That's something else. That means that he studied by great teachers. Talmid Chachamim. Okay. It's a unique way of saying it. So, Talmud Chacham needs to know 3 things. What does he need to know? Ksav. He needs to know how to sign his name. That's a big deal.
It doesn't mean Savros?
No. Well, in a way, possibly in a way of Savros. But it says that he might need to have to sit in judgment. He has to sit on a case. He's going to have to sign his name at the end. Or maybe there's a testimony. He has to sign his name. Maybe on a get or something. He might have to sign his name on a document. Shchita. He has to practice shechting, even if he knows all the laws of shchita, but he has to train his hand to do it properly, and mila. He also has to know how to do a bris, to practice. We're talking about not knowing the halachas here, apparently. We're talking about actual practice.
Does it say specifically Ksav is just signature as opposed to...
That's Rashi. Rashi says it's referring to signature, to sign his name.
Because the other way sounds much
better.
Yeah.
Right. Well, when you do sign your name, you don't need all the tagging, you don't need all of those things. You just have to be able to make a letter. And okay, let's see. Rav Chananya Bar Shalmei, probably in the art school they have a better way of pronouncing it. Mishmei de Rav, he says in the name of Rav, Mishmei de Rav Amar, Af Kesher Shel Tefillin, that you also need to make a tefillin knot. You have to know how to make a tefillin knot. And what else do you need to know? Birchas Chasanim, you have to be able to say the brachas by a chasana, you have to know that. And v'tzitzis, you also have to tie tzitzis. Now, the Gemara says, what about the Rav Yehuda? Rav Yehuda said that you only need to know 3 things: to sign your name, to shchita, be able to do shchita and also mila. What about making a tefillin knot? Shouldn't the Talmud Chacham know how to do that? Make tzitzis and to say the brachas at a wedding? V'idach, what does he hold? He says hanishchichen. These are common. These are common according to Rashi. We don't have to say that he needs to learn these. These is going to pick up without specifically going to a seminar to how to learn how to do these things. He'll pick it up naturally. Taisva says a little different. Taisva says that tefillin beibar chavu mishkach shchichi, that he doesn't need to make a tefillin knot because you can get tefillin by this sefer's house. Beibar chavu, he's selling tefillin. It's not necessary for every individual to know, because they have regularly you can find tefillin. However, Rabbeinu Tam says that this is a proof that you don't need to make your tefillin knot every day, because it's Rabbeinu Eliyahu in Menachem, we learned this. Rabbeinu Eliyahu in Taisus quotes says that you need to make your tefillin knot every day. According to Taisvus, if tefillin mishkash shchichi, that tefillin you can find tefillin by the sefer. Obviously, you're not going to the sefer every day. It must mean that you don't need to make the tefillin, make the knot every day. Taisvus brings another raya that it says that if you find tefillin on Shabbos, you can wear them, and they're outside, there's no Erev, you can wear them to bring them in. And this is a discussion, you bring them in, wear them one at a time, and you can wear 2 at a time if you find on Shabbos, because they are, but to salvage them from getting ruined in the outside, there's a leniency to wear them, to bring them in. So it says that's only if they're older tefillin. The Gemara says, but not if they're new. Why? Because if they're new, then you can't make the knot, because the knot on the tefillin is a kesher shel kayama. It means it's a knot that lasts for more than 24 hours. It's a permanent knot. It's a permanent knot. It must mean that you don't make it every day. If you make it every day, it's not permanent, because the knots that we make on Shabbos, even temporary knots, it's normal that we're going to take them out. That's why they have this question on by Glila, a very interesting question on the Sefer Torah. Normally they have Velcro or something, but some people have a bow. You have to make a bow and you have to tie it. So Shabbos morning, when you tie that, there's no problem, because mincha you're going to open it up. But Shabbos mincha you're not going to open it up until Monday. It's more than 24 hours. The rabbis discuss this, and I haven't seen anyone strict about it, but it's hard to know because they donated. Was it because of the... Right, but even if it's not a kesher shel kayama, but it's supposed to be that it doesn't last for... Even if it's not a double knot, but still it's not supposed to last for so long. Our shoelaces, we take it out.
Maybe another minion comes and needs to use it.
That could be.
Can you use Tosfos's comment to support the Rashi's explanation of Ksav? Because obviously we're not talking about him having to be a sofer.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because then, I'm just saying.
Very interesting.
It's interesting. Tosfos supports Rashi.
Well, yeah, I have to think of it. I have to put that together. Okay, so we said here that there's two opinions in the name of Rav, what a Talmud Chacham needs to know. And the first opinion holds that he doesn't need to specifically know how to do a Kesher Shel Tefillin B'chas Chasanim and Tzitzis, either because he'll pick that up on his own, or because he'll be able, that's available. The next thing, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. There we see Rav Yehuda went to Shmuel as well. He's a student of Shmuel. Kol tabach sheni yedei hilchas shchita, asal echel mishchitasei. Any sheichet, any butcher that doesn't know hilchas shchita, you're not allowed to eat from his shchita. Ve'elo ein hilchas shchita, and these are the laws of shchita. Shehiyah drasa chalada hagrama v'ikar. He said there's 5 laws. The 5 laws are shia, you're not allowed to pause, you're not allowed to chop. Chalada, you're not allowed to put the knife in between the two, to insert it in between the two pipes and then to cut it. Hagrama is to cut it on the wrong place on the neck, too high or too low. In Ikar, we said is to either to pull out the front pipe. So Rashi says, however, Taisvus and the Rosh argue with Rashi. They say that how is it possible that you're telling me one of the laws of Shechita is that you're not allowed to pull out the pipe? That's not Shechita. It's nothing to do with Shechita. Shechita, you said, is you cut it in the wrong way, but this, if you're pulling it out, you're ripping it out, that's not Shechita. So they say that it's referring to, Taisva says that it's referring to a knife that has a nick in it, because that is tearing. And that's what we're talking about. It's instead of cutting, it's tearing. The Bahag says that if the pipe was pulled out before you shechted, the Bahag, the Baal Halachas Gedolos, one of the early, one of the Gaonim, he says it was pulled out before, and then you shechted a pipe that was pulled out already. And Taisus has this whole discussion if that's considered a treifa or not. So is it a din in shechita or is that a treifa? He says that according to the Baal Halachas Gedolos, it must be that it's not a treifa. Okay, so Ikar is the only discussion. Everything else we got. My Kamashmalon, what's the chiddush of Shmuel? My Kulu Taninu. We know that all of those are Mishnayos.
Sorry, going back, Iker is pulling it out completely or just dislodging it?
I'm not sure. Rashi says Pasak Hagageres. Pasak Hagageres. Pasak sounds like to disconnect it.
It says over here that it's ripping the money from their place before cutting them.
So
It sounds like the Bahag.
Yeah.
It sounds like the Bahag. Okay, so that's an explanation. Okay, good. So the Gemara says leitzricha. No, it's actually necessary for Shmuel to say that he needs to know the halachas. Why? Because sheshachat lefanenu beis v'gimel pamim. This sheichet shechted already 2 or 3 times. We always say 2 or 3 times because of the machlekes, what a chazak is. V'shachat shaper, and he shechted very well. We see he knows what he's doing. He doesn't know the laws, but he's ma'odetema. What we have said mididach shachat shaper hainami shachat shaper. When we were watching him, he did a good job. Now we weren't watching him. He probably did a good job as well. He has a chazak already. Kamash malan. Because he doesn't know the halachas, zimnin d'shoy v'daris v'layada. Maybe he paused in the middle of the shechita. Maybe he chopped, and he doesn't even know that he did it wrong. This is a lot of times people have relatives that aren't religious. They want to prepare food for you, so you tell them you double wrap it and you put it in the oven, and you tell them all these things. But if they don't know the laws, you're always suspicious the whole time. That they don't even know what they don't know. So how are they supposed to know if everything is?
Or if they mess up, they're too scared to say, so they just don't tell.
Right. So that's what we're talking about here. He doesn't know. So okay. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Shmuel. Hatabach tzarich yivdik b'simanim. After he shechs, he has to look at the two pipes, the trachea and the esophagus, to make sure that he shechted the majority of both of them. Rabbi Yosef says, this was also taught in a Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon Aimer, im shah kedei bikor. What happens is, if someone shechts, he's not allowed to pause in the middle of the shechita. But how long is considered a pause? So the Gemara says, it's a Mishnah later on, if he pauses the amount of time that it takes to examine, so that's a pause. My love, what does it mean? Kedei bikor simanim, to examine the pipes. So we see that there's a concept.
What do you need to examine it by? Before he finished the shechita?
No, the amount, he's pausing in the middle of the shechita, but how long did he pause for? The amount of time it would take to examine the pipes. Now, we see that that's a concept of examining pipes. Where do you get this idea, examining pipes? It must be because that's something that he's supposed to do. That whole term, examining the pipes, must be because that's something that's meant to be done. And that's what Rabbi says in the name of Shmuel, that when you finish the shechita, you have to check to see was it cut as much as it was supposed to.
After he cut it.
After he cuts it, he has to examine. But it's a proof from a Mishnah because the Mishnah uses that term of examining. Amalei Abaya. Loi. Abaya says no. Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. K'dei bikar chacham. What it means is that the amount of time it takes to go to a chacham for him to examine your knife. So the Gemara says back, this was Rabbi Yosef that was talking. Rabbi Yosef tells Abayim, what does it mean? Yeah, you have to go to a chacham. Where's the chacham? So maybe he's next door. Maybe he's down the block. Maybe he's down the road. How do you know how far it is? So this person is shechting. He pauses. So we say if the pause is long enough for you to go to check at a chacham to examine the knife, so then it's no good. But how far? Like how big is a piece of string? How far away is the chacham? There's no way. There's no defined amount of time here. So ela kadei bikar tava chacham. Rather, what we're talking about is, according to Rabbi Yochanan, not to go to a chacham. We're talking about that the butcher himself is the chacham. You see, there's a rule that you have to go. The knife needs to be checked by the greatest rabbi of the town to show respect to that rabbi. Before you shecht, you show him.
If you come to town.
You show him the knife.
Just don't point it out.
They hand the knife to him, and he checks it. They check the knife on the three ends. They consider the front of the knife, obviously, but then they check it from each side, from the two sides as well. They use the fingernail, and they check it, and they feel if there's a tiny nick on the knife. So there's a lot of things that I forget where I was. Someone thought I was a big rabbi. He hands me the knife to check him. Leave me out of it. I don't know what I'm doing. I never practiced this. But when we went to when we did smicha, so they took us to the shlach. We had to learn treifus. We went to the shlachtas. It was in Australia. So they had us put our hand inside the animal. You have to check the animal while it's right after it's shechted. Make a little slit. To see if it's clocked, to see if it's the lungs are. So you put your arm inside and you check, but it's the first time you do it, you really don't know what you're feeling. You have to do it, they have to practice, and then they say they can feel everything. Your hand can feel all exactly, and they make a mark on a chart and they check it afterwards.
Get ready, buddy.
Okay, so what are we talking about here? We have no proof.
Get ready.
Chazak v'sheik, that's all I get.
We have no proof about checking the simanim afterwards, because what it means by that the amount of time that takes to make the animal, the shechita, it's no good. If there's a pause, it's not talking about checking the simanim, it's talking about the chacham himself, the tabach himself, checking his own knife. If he pauses the amount of time it takes for him to check his own knife, that's too long. Loi badak mai. Let's say he didn't check the simanim afterwards. Not the knife. We're going back to Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, that the butcher needs to check to see if he shechted it properly, and he let's say he doesn't do it, so we don't know what happened. The shechita was done. We don't know. There was no follow up. To make sure that it was done correctly. Rabbi Lezer ben Antignas mishum Rabbi Lezer bar Yana Yamar treifa vasur ba'achila. He says that it's treifa. It means it's not kosher, and you can't eat it. Now, the term treifa here is a borrowed term. No one says that it's a treifa. Treifa means that the animal was going to die before the shechita. It wouldn't have lived 12 months. It has some problem with one of the organs. But the treif is, in this context, is a borrowed term. It's similar to the way we would use, some people could use glatt kosher or something.
Hospice.
No, but people would say, I remember someone told me, it was a Judaic story. They said, these mezuzahs are glatt kosher. But it's a borrowed term that someone can use, but it's not accurate. But so here the term treifa don't use it as treifa. Use it just means that it's not. It's not kosher. But masnisatan and a brisa was taught nevela umatama b'masa. Much more than that. The simanim weren't checked. It's a nevela. What's the difference treifa and nevela? A treifa just means that you can't eat it. It was shechted, but it doesn't give any impurity. Nevela means that it died without shechita, and it gives off an impurity. If you touch it, and even if you carry it without touching it, it also makes a person impure. Just lifting it up, let's say in a bag, without actually touching the actual tzigazon, without actually touching it, gives impurity. So it's much stricter. He didn't check the simanim, and it's giving off impurity. It's not even can't eat it; it's giving off impurity. But my kamifligi, what's the machlekes? B'der Rav Huna. They're arguing about something that Rav Huna says. The Amar. Behema b'chaya b'cheskas yisrei medes. An animal, while it's alive, is forbidden to eat. Rashi says it's forbidden to eat because it's Eiver Menachai, a limb of a living animal. You can't eat it while it's alive. Until you know how it was shechted. So there's a chazaka, there's an assumption, there's a status that it has, that it's not kosher, it's not permitted to be eaten, until you change that status. Nishchata, once the status is changed, it remains kosher in the status of kosher until you know how it's not kosher. The Gemara is going to discuss. That's a strange thing to say, because once you shecht it, then it's kosher. It's not like something's going to happen later that's going to make it not kosher. Okay. So what is the machlekes here? Mar savar becheskas iser kaima. One of them says that it's becheskas iser. It has assumed status of being prohibited. Why? Because it was always prohibited until this point. It was Eiver Menachai. And Vahashta Mesa, and now it's not alive. So, but we don't know that the shechita was good. So we consider it not edible, not kosher. Mar Sava b'cheskas yisur aminan. The first, I'm sorry. Vahashta Mesahi means that it was forbidden before, and now it's dead. So therefore we're going to consider it...
Continue.
More than that, we're going to consider it that it's a nevela, that it has no heter of shchita, because we haven't established that. The other one says that we only look at it had a cheskas iser before. There was no tumah on it. There was no impurity on it while it was alive. While it was alive, it was just forbidden to eat because it's Eiver Menachai. Now that it's dead, so we'll continue the iser prohibition, but the tumah never was before. We never had a status of tumah, so we don't consider it tummy. Okay. Tosfos in Beya discusses what's going on. He says it's funny the way Rashi puts it. It has a cheskas iser of Eiver Menachai. It's forbidden to be eaten because it's a limb of a living animal. After it's dead, it's clearly not a limb. That iser goes away. There is no Eiver Menachai after it's dead. Even if someone eats it after it's dead, it's not Eiver Menachai. It's not Eiver Menachai after it's dead. I mean, if you took it off while it was alive, that would be a problem. But if anything that's taken after it's dead is the other isurim, wasn't shechted, it has other things. So how do you say that the status that it had before continues afterwards when clearly that status is over? So he asks on Rashi, and he says that there's actually two isurim while it's alive. One is the isur of Eiver Menachai, and the other one is a positive command that wasn't fulfilled. It's called Eina Zavuach. It wasn't shechted. So while it's alive, not the prohibition of Ephraim and Achai that applies to non-Jews. And that's not what we're referring to according to Tosfos. We're referring to that has a prohibition to be eaten because it wasn't shechted. And after it's dead, we still continue that prohibition until we know that it was shechted properly. So it's the Isser Aveina Zavua. The Rashba just says, Machzikin me Yisr Isser. If it had an Isser before, we can continue on to a new Isser, and that would answer Rashi. Okay. Gufa.
Where does the Torah say you can't eat treif meat? I mean,
And it's from the Zavach.
so that's an assay.
It's an assay. So it's the neglect of the assay that creates that Isser.
So the
Eina Zavuach.
person who eats treif meat, buys meat from Publix,
Right.
he's only being over an assay. He's not
Yeah.
being over alone.
Well, Nevelu Treifa, doesn't it say Nevelu Treifa le Seichel or le Yachal?
It's not
Like-
a vela. It's not a treif.
Why?
Roadkill.
What?
Why is it not an Nevelu?
No.
Why is it not an vela? So it's shechted.
It wasn't
Or
shechted?
whatever.
No, I don't. I assume it's not shechted. I assume they
Not
shoot it or
shechted.
something.
Yeah. So that's an avela. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't go to Publix.
Said there's another asset.
But there's another essay, right? Aveinu Zavua. When they have the deliveries, the stores make deliveries. So they used to have Publix Direct. So one time, a friend of mine told me that he got in his bags, they gave a gift. They actually put meat into the bag, and the maid puts the food away that comes from the delivery. You couldn't believe it. He pulled out from the refrigerator treif of meat. Treif of meat was ready to put it in the shelf. He didn't know anything about it. I was amazed. It's
I got just share. My wife was shopping in Costco like a year ago, and in the meat section, she's picking out steaks, shore habor. You know the way they're sealed and this and that. 100% kosher, God kosher, whatever. I mean, it's sealed. It's got this. On top of it is a stamp. It says pork roast or something.
no.
The way they stamped it, $3.99 a pound. So my wife says to the guy, she says, you've got the wrong stamp on this. This is kosher meat. The guy goes, no. This is pork. $3.99. And obviously it's not because of the seal.
No, buy the whole cake.
She did. She said, "I would take everything if she left with like a year's worth of steaks at $3.99 a pound." They refused to. They refused to argue with her. They said, "No, you're wrong, lady. Our stamp is correct, even though their stamp was on top of the sealed kosher labels."
Was it good? Was it good?
Oh, the best. Still eating those steaks today.
Okay. Gufa.
Barbecue.
Here we said that the
I
term.
saw a lady last week. Also, it wasn't meat, but the stamp was much cheaper. What it is, and also the cashier said, this is what it is.
She argued with him for an hour. She
Right.
finally gave up. She says, "Okay,
was-
charge me $3.99."
Gufa is, like we said, is a
What am I talking?
a term that's used when we're restating something that an Amoira said. So Amar Rav Huna, behema b'chaya b'cheskas Yisrael medesat shivadlach manishchata. An animal, while it's alive, has a status of being prohibited, either according to Rashi or Tosfos, until we know how it was shechted. Nishchata, once it's shechted, b'cheskas heter medesat shivadlach b'manishchata. It has a status of being kosher until we know how it's not kosher. V'leima nishchata hutra. Why doesn't it just say, once it's shechted, hutra, it becomes permissible? What's going to happen afterwards that can make it treif?
You just said you need to respect the lines.
Oh. Okay, good. Hakamash Malon is coming to tell us, the Afagav this Yalid Bereisa, that even though something comes up that creates a, how do you say a reisa? There's got to be a good word for that.
Doubt.
And it's more than, it's
Then
Even
that's
though a problem develops.
problem. Okay, I can use that word too. Even though a problem developed, so even though a problem developed, so nevertheless we consider it kosher until we determine that that's a real problem because it has a status, a chazaka that it's good. Like Rabbi asked Rav Huna, If a wolf comes, it runs off with the intestines, with the innards. So the Gemara says, "Natal halesnu." What's the problem? Why should you assume there's a problem? It's not here, and we never found any problem. The Gemara says, "No." Ella nikiv b'nei meyayim. It made a hole in the innards. So it says, "Ma, what's it in?" It says, "Nekev hakachazina duhu nakvinu." You see that the wolf put his teeth in it, and the wolf happened to bring it back. Thank you very much. He brings it back, and you see the teeth marks in it. So he says, "Well, what's the problem with that?" You see that the teeth, the holes in it came from the wolf's teeth.
No problem.
So Ella Natlan v'hechzin kshein nekuvin. He took them, and he brought them back with holes in them. So Mahu, what's the din? Mi chayshin and shema b'makam nekev nikev Eily. Do we say that the teeth marks of the wolf went into holes that were there already while it was alive? So do I say that it was already a trait before? You see, I can't examine this anymore because it has holes in it from the wolf, but it could be it had holes beforehand as well. Amalei, so Rav Huna says to Rabbi, Ein chayshin shema b'makam nekev nikev. We don't suspect that. So that's what it means, that once it's shechted, it has the status of being kosher until we know that it's different. Tosfos points out, the bottom Tosfos, that even if there are many holes in the intestines, we still don't say that those other holes are a problem, because we assume that the wolf bit it and grabbed it in different places and made all of those holes, even though we only see it making one hole. But once a wolf got a hold of it, okay. The Gemara asks Esvei, he asks him a question. Must be Rab Abba. Ra tzipor hamenaker b'teina. If you see a bird that's making holes in a fig, ba'achbar hamenaker ba'avatichem, or a mouse that's making holes in melons, we have to suspect that maybe those holes that it's making were there before by something that was poisonous. Let's say a snake ate from this, or something that has a venom. And we're concerned that now when we're seeing this bird putting its beak into the hole, or we're seeing the mouse, but the mouse we're assuming doesn't have any venom. Although today there's I forget what it's called, hunters, I forget things, you don't want to touch food that was nibbled at by a mouse or something, or squirrel or something. But in Talmudic times they were concerned about snake, the venom from snakes that could have gotten